Today I have two makes to share with you. You can make this either with a really lightweight woven. It can even work in a knit fabric. Super cute, easy to sew. I made one for my mom, one for me. Some chiffon coming your way. Stay tuned. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have some woven sewing to share with you. Although the pattern I've chosen to make can also be made in knits, it is originally designed for wovens, and I'll take that because, you know, wovens has always been my first love and I love sewing with wovens. It's usually the fabric I mostly like in the shops and the one that holds the largest percentage in my fabric collection. So what I'm talking about is the Songbird duster and cardigan from Pattern Emporium. It's a pattern I've wanted to sew for a pretty long time. It is the type of garment that I actually wear all the time. Because I like the layering look and I live in hot climate, for me it's really practical to get something really light and put it on top. And then I feel like I've got my arms covered or whatever when there's air conditioning. So this is perfect. You have a lot of length options here. You can make it cropped to hit the hip. Another length hits around the thighs, and then one that hits below the knee like a duster length. For sleeves, you can make it sleeveless and finish that with binding. You have a short sleeve, a 3/4 and a long. And then for the sleeve types, you have 3. Tons of options for you to mix and match whatever you want. There is a regular sleeve, which is just your typical sleeve, one that is semi-flared and one that is a lot flared, more flared. In the center front, you finish the Songbird with a band, and at the bottom of the band that doesn't reach the hem at the center front, so you have a space there where it's just folded and then you have the band coming out, and that can finish either in a rectangle or an angled shape. You can see a few diagrams to show you there. I just decided to keep it simple and finish them in the rectangle way for both of them. Pattern pieces are not that many. You have 2 fronts and the back is cut on the fold. But in the pattern there are also some extra features that you can add if you want to, like inseam pockets, a casing and a drawstring if you want. I asked my mom, I showed her all the options, what she wanted. She wanted the hip length and so did I, so there's no difference there. Her version has a 3/4 length semi-flared sleeve and mine has a short sleeve, just a regular sleeve. That is the only difference. Pattern Emporium, when they release a new pattern, they release it with a 15% off. So that is usually the discounts you see during the year when there's a new pattern. But they only have one huge sale a year, and that is what is happening right now. Boxing Day sale, it starts the 26th and it goes up to the 1st of January, of course, in Australian time. So if you're in the States, take away about 14 to 16 hours. So the sale will probably end around the 31st of December for most of us. It's the 1st over there in Australia. Go ahead and have a look at the patterns. I'll leave you a link of all the patterns I've made recently. This is one of them. My low-key cami, been using it, loving it, and I've made quite a few patterns already. Go ahead and use my affiliate link if you want to. I make a little commission from there and I'm always super appreciative when you use it. Now as for the fabrics, it is originally designed for lightweight woven fabrics, but it can also work for knit fabrics. You can see a little diagram there of the best type of fabrics to use. You just want something that flows really nicely. Pick it up and move it, drape it on yourself. Got your rayon blends, chiffon, your crepes. Crepe is the type of weave of the fiber, so you'll find silk crepe, you'll find rayon crepe, even wool crepe. All of those are made in a way that they drape really nicely. So look for those. You can use silk, you can use lace, just make sure that it has a really nice drape. Now for the knit fabrics, the same. Just look for lightweight knits that have a nice drape. Stay away from cotton lycra, for example. That's just going to be really stiff. Something too heavy is not going to work either. But there are lots of sweater knits that are really light and flowy. Those would work perfectly. Now, the ones that you should definitely stay away from are the stiff fabrics. I wouldn't want to use linen, for example, 100% linen or 100% cotton. It's just going to stick out, stick to your clothes, and it's just not going to look that great. The sizing for this pattern is available from 6 to 24 Australian sizing. Kate, who is the owner of Pattern Emporium, has slowly been updating her patterns to include up to size 30, and all the newer patterns are all having the size range of 6 to 30 Australian. So this one's a little bit older, and this one goes up to a 51 3/4 inch hip. It's really easy fitting. You know, I really doubt you'd have many fitting issues right here. You have a nice amount of ease everywhere, bust, waist and hips. This is meant to be a light little cover that you put on top of something, and because of the type of fabric that is recommended. You can't really have a fitted garment, you know, if you're sewing chiffon or silk, so you need to have a nice amount of ease. And because the fabrics are light and drapey, it's not something that's going to look super voluminous either. So don't worry about the ease, just choose your size based on your high bust and you'll be fine. Blend for hips and waist if you need to. Now for my mum, I chose a straight size 14 Australian. That is equivalent in US to a size 10, I believe. And mine is a size 18 Australian, equivalent to a 14. There are some conversions, but don't get too caught up in numbers. And when you see UK sizing or Australian sizing or US sizing, just look at your measurements and look at what that corresponds on the chart and just sew and you'll be fine. Don't get too caught up in the numbers because they're just numbers. Personal fitting, there was no personal fitting done. I've just sewn them up as they are. I don't anticipate any fitting issues at all, so pretty relaxing in that sense. The fabrics I've chosen are a little bit fiddly to work with, but I am used to these types of fabrics because I've been using them for so long. I do have a really comprehensive video on my channel that has over 20 tips that are going to help you work with silk, chiffon, all the slippery types of light woven fabrics. Really comprehensive. Go ahead and look at that one. If you want to start your journey on these types of fabrics, you will not regret it. You will be always so proud of your makes. All the steps and the tricks I show in that video are actually what I do when I cut out and sew my fabrics. In Up Close and So Personal, you'll see a lot of the sewing. This is very easy to put together. You just see some practical things I'm doing just to adapt to the type of fabric. Maybe a different order of steps, but the same nice result. So let's see.
It's a shame to watch us fade away, but all the beautiful things we made are great.
The other pattern pieces for the Songbird, this is a chiffon. Very few pieces. The back is cut on the fold, the front is cut twice. This is the center front right there, there's a curve, and this is the band that will go there, and the band will finish at a higher length compared to the hem right there, so there'll be a little rectangle coming out of there and going up. I think that's really pretty. And here we have a semi-flared sleeve. There is a regular sleeve and a sleeve that's even more flared than this, and this is a 3/4 length. There's also a shorter and a full length one also as options. About the cutting, here you're seeing a few images of me cutting the sleeve. I did do it all on the cutting mat. I used weights, anything I had on hand, no pins, and I used my rotary cutter with a fresh blade. Important thing about lightweight fabrics like this is that you have to adapt to the shape that you're cutting. You're not meant to be moving the fabric around, so you need to contour a little bit to reach the curves on the other side of the table or something, but you need to change your location to be able to cut this nicely and keep the fabric stable on the cutting mat at all times. Here I'm stay stitching the back neckline. The front I won't bother too much, it's not that curved, but the back is pretty curved, so I'm sewing from the shoulder to the center and then flipping the fabric and doing the same from the other side, all within the 3/8 seam allowance. I've taken my time to pin and assemble all the seams I have to sew now for the Songbird. This is the main body. I've got the shoulders pinned and the side seams, and I've got my sleeves there, and these seams are also pinned. You can put the sleeves in on the flat if you prefer. In that case, you would sew only the shoulder seams first, and then you would extend your piece and then put all this armhole on the flat. But I always prefer to do it on the round. It's just my preference and how I construct everything. I don't know why, I find it easier to serge first and then sew my seams, so that's what I'm going to be doing everywhere. All the same for the shoulder seams, the side seams and the sleeve seams. I'll go through the serger first. Once I've serged all of that, then I'll go off to the sewing machine and sew. And it's just a whole bunch of straight seams, nothing really complex or difficult at all, just a lot of straight seams. As I'm sewing the side seam, I want to show you something. Because the shape of the side seam flares out a little bit, you can see that at the hem allowance, which is 1.5 inches, it goes in, and that's to match the shape right there. If we sewed all this straight all the way down, when you want to hem it, you would have excess around there. So the hem has been trued, and I love that. So that's why you see that shape going in. Don't think it's a mistake, just sew it with the same seam allowance. And then when you fold up your hem, everything's going to match and it's going to be nice and perfect. This is the neckband, and there is a center back seam, so I'm sewing that 3/8 seam allowance.
Now the bottoms of the bands, you need to put them right sides together, and you can either just have a rectangle finish like I'm going to do here, but you also find one that,
whichever way you're doing, you finish this first. So this is right sides together, and I'll just sew the bottoms of these two bands. Flip it right sides out, and then I can press it. The instructions recommend you interface half of this. I've done neckbands before in chiffon without interfacing, so I'm not doing it this time. So that's one done, and then this gets flipped. And this is the little rectangle edge. All the seams have been sewn. I've got the garment with the fabric right sides up. That is the center back, and I've pressed my band wrong sides together. It's all very neat. Now you will have a seam at the center back, so that's easy to align right there, right sides together. And then a little off, you will have shoulder seam marks right there. I've marked them on the right side of the fabric. And then further down, you'll find another notch right there that will help you match everything. And then on the center front, you'll find a notch that will match the edge of this bottom band. So it's just a matter of aligning it all, taking your time, pin all that from here all the way along, all the way down, and I'll show you that up closer. Here is one of the center fronts. This is the right side of the fabric, and I have the band right on top. And you can see that there's a little mark there where the end of the band should reach. So that's matching right there, and then you go all along the edge. And around the middle of the neckline, around the bust height, there's another notch, matches that one. And then you have the shoulder seams that match the notch right there. Then you have the center back, and then the other shoulder notch, another one down the front. It's just so easy to match up. I've been doing the serger the whole time, and I'm going to do this all in one go. Sew the band onto the neckline with the serger, but I'm also going to include this area right here. So I'm going to start here, go all the way up, and then finish on the hem on that side. You can see I'm using all my pins vertically, and I try to place them within the seam allowance. That way I'm trying to keep my fabric safe. It is very lightweight and delicate. I'm sewing from one center front to the other center front all along the neckline. Now at the bottom I have the hem to do. I'll do it in this step as well. Okay, here we have one center front that's serged, and now this is where the band starts. From here we're going to start sewing with 3/8 seam allowance, and from this bottom here, this would just be folded like that, and that's how this is going to look on the center front. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew now with the sewing machine from here to the other side. Very easy. And then there's one little thing we need to do at the bottom of the center front. Okay, that's done. That's how that little band is going to look. And now at the bottom we need to fold the hem allowance up, which is 1.5 inches, right sides together here at the bottom, and then sew that in the same amount that we sewed here, the same seam allowance, 3/8. And when we flip that, we get a really nice clean corner. So that's that little seam, and then you just flip it, and that's how it's going to look on the inside, but on the outside it's going to be super clean. And now we need to top stitch that little bit down, but I'll do that all in one go when I sew the hem later. Here's one of the center fronts at the bottom, and you see the hand basting there. I'm going to be sewing from the wrong side, so I know what I'm doing, and I'll start just a little above where that band finishes. I've hand basted the bottom of my hems just for safety, because this fabric slides everywhere. I really don't trust the pins to do a great job in keeping it all even. The fabric you saw in the sewing segment is a chiffon that I've bought for my mum about 3 years ago. I'll have a confession. I have a little fabric collection here as well in my parents'. Every time I come, I get fabric. There's fabric I don't get to sew up, and it just stays there. Sometimes mum goes shopping and buys fabric that she likes, she puts there so that I can sew it up when she comes. So I found this special chiffon that she finds is the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She sees it as like a painting. It looks like watercolors. It's so beautiful. And yeah, it's just the most beautiful chiffon. It's very sheer and it's very hard for me to keep it on the hanger here because it wants to slide out. This is the semi-flared sleeve with a hem right there. Everything has been serged. I didn't really want to go and do the extra steps of the French seams, although it's something you could do with 3/8 seam allowance. It does take a few extra steps, and I'm trying to maximize my time and spending time with family, so your serged edges are perfectly acceptable. Just side seams, shoulder seams you saw, very easy. The sleeves, super easy to set in. I'll leave you a link of a video I've made about how I like to set in sleeves so that you can have a reference. Very easy to do. Go ahead and set in your sleeves. I like to do it on the round. Super pretty. The band is on there. You can see that the band there finishes in that little rectangle, and then it goes straight like that, and then the hem. The hem is nice and deep. Super pretty. Let's see it on. She's styled it with some denim. I think it looks awesome. Let's see.
I love this dust made for my daughter.
I made this Songbird duster for my mum. This is a size 14 Australian. This is a beautiful printed chiffon with a navy background, my mum's favorite. She styled it here with denim. I love the way she looks here. The length in the pattern is called Cover Up, and she has a semi-flared sleeves. Closer look at the band and the sleeve fit. It's a nice length that covers your bottom, super floaty. She's really excited to have this one, and I'm very happy I made it for her. The one I made is a Crinkle crepe chiffon. It's a little heavier than the one I've made my mum. There are some embroidery details and a little bit of sequins thrown in there, very little amounts though. And it's one of the fabrics I've shown in my latest fabric haul from the fabric district in Santiago, Chile. If you haven't seen that one, go ahead and look, because there's really interesting shopping footage from the subway in Santiago. Really interesting if you like to see other places around where I move around. So that is a very recent purchase, and I really wanted to make it. I always knew I wanted some type of cover up. I'm trying to build up teal in my wardrobe, and at home I have prints so I can make dresses, and this can go on top. So this is a regular short sleeve, no flare option here, and you can see the details of the fabric that make it special. When I sew a solid, I like textured fabrics like this. The sequins are not too much. If you had more, I wouldn't like it, but this is just right. Here is the band, and this one also finishes in that little square right there. Finish off to a hem. I found matching threads for my overlocker. I'm so glad I did. I couldn't picture it doing it with white or anything, and if I hadn't have found enough threads in the matching color, I actually would have done French seams, but I didn't need to. So everything's nice and serged. It's just the same thing, just a different fabric. Super nice. This is just a couple of sizes larger than my mum's. Very limited in the way I can style it for now, so it'll be super simple. So let's see. This is my Songbird duster. I made it in a size 18 Australian. This is a crepe crinkle chiffon with embroidery details, a bit of sequins in there, just a little bit. I have the cover up version which hits the full hip. It actually does cover my bottom, and I have the regular short sleeve version. Those were my options. My band finishes with a little rectangle finish. Very simple styling. I don't have many options right now. I am building up teal in my wardrobe, and this will go perfectly. Up above you can see the neckline and the shoulder fits. Very comfortable. There's a nice amount of ease, but it does meet the center with a little crossover. Very comfortable to wear in a nice light fabric like this. Don't forget the huge 30% off site-wide sale from Pattern Emporium. This is actually when I've got most of my own patterns from Pattern Emporium. I have quite a nice collection of the patterns. Use my affiliate link if you would like to. I leave you all the information below. I'll see you soon with more sewing. Have a nice rest of your year. Only a few days left. Bye.